This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. America's video game industry was the winner in a decision by the United States Supreme Court. In late June, the justices rejected a law in California that banned the sale or rental of violent video games to people under 18. They said the 2005 law violated the free speech guarantee in the First Amendment to the Constitution. The vote was 7-2. The court decided that video games are a protected form of creative expression, like books, plays, and movies. Paul McGrail, Dean of the University of Dayton Law School in Ohio, says California did not see gaming that way. The state of California tried to argue that this was not speech. It was more of an activity because children interact and play with the video games, and so it's not traditional speech like a book or like a magazine. California lawmakers argued that violent games are especially harmful to children. But the court said they were no more harmful than the violence in other forms of media. Justice Antonin Scalia wrote the majority opinion. He pointed to the violence in fairy tales, like Snow White and Cinderella, and in cartoons. Professor McGrail says the court sees its job as only to decide what is and is not legally protected speech. We don't want to get the Supreme Court into making fine distinctions about what is better than others, because that will lead us down a slippery slope. Once you start deciding that, what's to stop the government from saying that, for example, Grimm's fairy tales themselves are too violent, or that particular books should be banned? In fact, from 1915 to 1952, the Supreme Court permitted censorship of movies for fear they could be used for evil. Today, the film and music industries have voluntary rating systems, and so does the video game industry. For example, extremely violent games are rated M for mature. These are meant for ages 17 and older. Only 5% of the more than 1,600 games rated last year were rated M. Still, Abby Holleran, a manager at a GameStop store in Maryland, says M-rated games like Call of Duty, Halo, and Fallout are the most popular games in the store. She says parents have to give their permission for children to buy M-rated games. But the majority of the time, when we tell them what's in it, they don't. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter. This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. We recently told you about a website called pastpages.org. It saves the home pages of 70 news websites from around the world every hour. That report led us to look for a website that saves images of newspapers from around the world. We found today's Front Pages, a site operated by the Newseum. The Newseum is a museum of news reporting and the media in Washington, D.C. Paul Sparrow is Senior Vice President with the organization. He says, one of the most interesting things about newspapers is that they are a snapshot in time. They capture a moment when the people working with a newspaper say, "These are the most important stories affecting our community." Paul Sparrow says visitors to the Today's Front Pages website can choose to see all of its newspapers, or they can look only at newspapers from one area of the world, such as Asia, Africa, or South America. Visitors can also sort newspapers by alphabetic order, either by state or by country. Today's Front Pages does not archive or save front page images, but it does archive newspapers from historically important dates, such as November 5th, 2008. That was one day after Barack Obama was elected president. Paul Sparrow says readers can learn a lot from the historical newspapers in the museum's collection. He says they will get a better understanding of the culture that existed long ago. The website shows only the front pages of general interest newspapers that publish daily. Student newspapers are not displayed. Some newspapers are not included because they do not have the technological ability to send their front pages electronically to the museum, and others simply choose not to do so. The site displays the front pages of 836 newspapers from 93 countries. It warns that the front pages are in their original unedited form, and some may contain material that is deemed objectionable to some visitors. If you are in Washington, you can see many front pages from around the world on display inside and just outside the museum. Only about 10% of the front pages the museum receives every day are displayed, but all are available online. You can read and hear our reports online at voaspecialenglish.com. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter.
I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Development Report. Week after week, we bring you stories about projects to improve lives in the developing world. Projects like banking by mobile phone, or low-cost lighting systems, or even a toilet bag that recycles itself into fertilizer. But for every success story, there are countless other projects that fail. These are the stories that people talk about at an event called Fail Fair. The creators of the event recently held their second Fail Fair. Members of the nonprofit community came together in Washington to talk about their projects and why they failed. Fail Fair is sort of like a celebration of failure. A prize is even given to the best worst story. But why celebrate? Katrine Verkloss is with a nonprofit group in New York called Mobile Active. She was the one with the idea for Fail Fair. She says the event provides an opportunity for people to learn from the mistakes of others. She says development is a field with finite resources, and so The less money we waste, the better. And part of that is learning from the things that didn't work so that we don't endlessly repeat them. Mobile Active held its first Fail Fair in New York earlier this year. More than 70 people attended the event. One of them, for example, was there to talk about his failed nonprofit organization, mobileimpact.org. Bradford Frost had hoped to recycle used cell phones and provide them to people in Africa. Katrine Verklaas explained some of the problems with this project and others like it. She says it did not work at all because of the numbers of very inexpensive handsets in the countries. She says they call that pseudo, stuff we don't want. Fail Fair takes place in a lighthearted social setting over food and drinks. Ms. Verklaas says the creator of a project is the one responsible for declaring it a failure. She says profit-making businesses talk more about failure than nonprofit organizations do. She says, we have to report to donors, and donors do not like to look bad. And so we don't like to look bad as nonprofits. And so we have a tendency to highlight our successes and never talk about our failures. Katrine Verklaas says she hopes Fail Fair will change this problem over time. She says members of the nonprofit community have been surprisingly open to her idea. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. Transcripts and MP3s of our reports are at voaspecialenglish.com.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report in Special English. Once again, consumer electronics topped the list of the most wanted gifts during the holiday season. Steve Koenig is with the Consumer Electronics Association. He says the group's latest research suggests that Americans increased their spending on technology products this year. Tablet computers were one of the best-selling products. Brian Tong is senior editor of CNET.com. The website reports on technology news and examines the latest electronic products. He says the Apple iPad mini has been one of the most popular tablets. Prices for it start at $329. One of Apple's biggest competitors is the Google Nexus 7. Its prices start at $199. Brian Tong says the Nexus 7 has more powerful hardware than the iPad mini, and it uses Google Maps. But there is one reason why people may like the Apple product more than the Nexus 7. The iPad still has the largest group of high-quality apps. Alman Chacon is with the electronics store Best Buy. He says smart cameras are also popular. They connect to the internet through Wi-Fi. This makes it easy for users to email or upload photographs directly from the camera. Streaming media boxes also connect to the internet. With the growing popularity of internet shopping, many consumers will visit a store first to look at a product and then go online to find it at a lower price. Many stores understand that. So, to keep customers, some stores offer to match lower prices that their customers find in other places within 30 days. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.